Hello YouTubers, we've made it onto the water for a lovely water session this morning, and the program that I'll be talking about in this video that I'll be doing over the next 4 months will contain a lot of on the water rowing sessions, because remember, to get better at rowing you need to be able to row, because remember, rowing is a rowing sport. And I mentioned 4 months. Why specifically over the next 4 months? Well, I've got a lot of things planned over the next 4 months that I'm trying to confirm behind the scenes, so I don't want to tell you guys before it's all confirmed, so make sure you are subscribed when it is confirmed and I do let you guys know. And as well, while we're here, while I have this lovely sample merch on, what do you guys think of the new Buchan Rowing Yamsqaud merch? We've got a little bit of orange and blue tartan on the side, a new logo as well. Let me know in the comments below what you think. But now I'm going to finish off this training session, finish off this leg, and we'll get in and talk about the rest of the training program and what it will involve. Oh yeah! And we've made it off the water after a lovely session on the water, and we might as well talk about the water session part of the training program that will be coming up over the next 4 months, and it will be pretty much geared towards going as fast as I can on the water in a single scull for 2,000 meters. So that's a little bit of a hint what might be coming up over the next few months. And the training itself will sort of look like doing 2 to 3 pieces a week, trying to prep for a 2K, trying to get myself going as fast as possible. And so specifically, that could look like doing some 2Ks, that could look like doing some 1Ks, that could look like doing some 500s, some 250s, or go the other way, some 2500s, some 3Ks, 4Ks. Just kind of depends when you look at the program. Me and Coach Colin thinking what will help get me prepared best. For you, that might be something different. So preparing for a 2K, going as fast as I can on the water, and it's really easy to prepare for a 2K on the water when you're training a lot on the water, because like I said, rowing is a rowing sport. Obviously, as I've said before, when you're doing one modality all the time, regardless of how well you're doing, it can be really hard to maintain motivation. So we'll be adding some variation in the training program, because remember, variation is one of the keys to motivation, with some lovely land training. And you've guessed it, we'll be doing some erging and of course some biking as well, whether that's on the road or on the turbo trainer, maybe get a little bit of Zwifting in there as well, and some weight training too. So let's talk about that land training in the training program. So what will the weight training, the biking, the erging involve in the training program? Well, the weight training itself, as I've talked about before in previous videos, I really feel like a little bit of higher volume approach works for me, and that might be a little bit different for you. The specific exercises, for me, I really think deadlifts and squats are really good for rowing. There's a couple of other exercises out there, but again, for me, they work really well. And it's not a case of reinventing the wheel and not doing hugely different things, but changing it up a little bit and keeping up the things that you know work well. And I'm probably doing 3 to 4 weight sessions per week of that higher volume. Cycling wise, as you've seen in the previous videos, I've been changing up a little bit with cycling in the indoor trainer using Zwift, so I'll probably try and use that as the weather is still to improve, but eventually getting onto the road outside and enjoying that little bit of variation, enjoying the fresh air, enjoying the sun as the weather does improve. But mostly the cycling is going to be on the lower intensity side of things, so I can bump up the volume that little bit easier. It's a lot easier to sit on the bike for 4 hours than it is on the water or the rowing machine. Yes, it's not as difficult because you're not using as many muscles in the body, but it's still working your cardiovascular system very well. And the tie-in between cycling and rowing, I think it's not super close, but it does help. Cycling does help rowing, and rowing does help cycling. And lastly, we have the rowing machine portion of the training program, and I'm going to be using it similarly to how I'll use the bicycle, and that will be using it for the lower intensity portions of the training program. Not all of it, but mostly. It just is that much easier to bump up the mileage on the rowing machine. You can basically use a rowing machine anywhere, and if the weather's terrible, it's just really easy to use. Sometimes when you're on the water, there's a lot more constraints on you, whether it's time or weather or different things that make it a lot harder to do those longer sessions on the water. But pull out the rowing machine, you can do it anywhere, and similar to the indoor bike or even the outdoor bike. So I'll be basically, combined with the bike, I'll be erging pretty much every day and hopefully rowing most days as well, depending on the weather, of course. So that's pretty much the training program as a whole. So lifting about 3 to 4 times a week and basically rowing or doing some cardio in some sort of aspect every day and doing pieces 2 to 3 times a week. So hopefully that makes sense. So basically the schedule is pushing the intensity pieces as far enough away from each other as possible so that they're not interfering with each other. And this ties into my last point of this training program is, so I do those high intensity training pieces and then I do the cardio on the other days, but how much cardio, how much biking, how much erging do I do on those other days? Well, Coach Colin and I have been just kind of discussing, it's how much you can do. And that can kind of change depending on where you are in the training block, where you are fitness-wise, mentally, how are you feeling. But in our opinion, it's a kind of case of just do as much as you can. And like I said, that can change. So for example, last week I was on the bike doing a little Zwift workout for 6 hours. That may be a little bit of on the long side, but there's days where you just feel like you want to go do a lot of mileage. And then other days you feel like, nah, not today. And so the program is more of a case of looking at those high intensity pieces and smashing them, hitting them hard, doing them really well, focusing on quality. And then outside of those pieces, it's a case of there's a minimum on the training program that Coach Colin and I have kind of discussed and thought, okay, that's a minimum we want. And it is quite low, say for example, 40, 60 minutes a day some days, whereas some days I may want to do more and say end up doing 2 or 3 hours, or even like I did last week on the bike, 6 hours. And then it's down to me as an athlete to think, well, if I've done more training than say that minimum, then I really have to focus and keep in mind that that more than minimum needs more than it would recovery-wise if I was doing that minimum. So I'm burning more calories, I'm taking more time between meals because I've spent more time training. So it can be a real case of, yes, you've done more than the minimum, great job, you've done 6 hours on the bike, whatever it is that you might want to do, but if you end up doing all of that mileage at that low intensity, but then it comes to the high intensity pieces and you've not recovered well enough, you've not had enough fuel, you've not had enough sleep, and it's going to be my fault if I do end up under recovering and not being able to smash or hit those pieces because I am under recovered, because I thought I could do loads of mileage because there's only that minimum and there's the option of doing as much as you like. So it's taking that personal responsibility and listening to your body, but also listening or not listening to your ego. You may think you can do 6 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, whatever it is, but assessing the training program, assessing the week ahead and seeing maybe you've got some schedule conflicts that you have to go around, what have you got food-wise, all of that, and you can just ask yourself, what will work for me, rather than listening to your ego and then end up falling over and under recovering. And that's kind of the same as what I've discussed before about low intensity training on the machine, is not listening to your ego and doing the speeds and the intensities that work for you rather than what may work for other people or that you think may impress other people because you went fast for that one workout. We're talking about working out and doing a training program, for me, this section over 4 months, so it is a long time, but it also isn't just 4 months and I'm going to finish after that, it's continuing on after that. So it's going to be a really interesting period of time, this training program, pushing hard but also listening to my body and hopefully getting back to where I was post-illness before Christmas. And that will be it for the training program. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the sort of ideas I've said in the video, and let me know in the comments below what you're planning to do in your training program this year. And as always, remember to subscribe if you haven't already, hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next episode where I'm hopefully going to be discussing, if everything's confirmed behind the scenes, like I said at the start, what will be going on in the next few months using this training program. Oh yeah.